Our nation is right now crossing a very dangerous threshold in the middle of a presidential election, right smack in the middle. Crooked Joe Biden and his entire corrupt party are staging a show trial of their leading political opponent, me. They want me to go on trial. It's totally crooked. It's totally corrupt. It's never been done before. In a completely illegitimate act of election interference, they're trying to jail their opposition as if they were Stalinist Russian or communist Chinese or Castro's Cuba or socialist Venezuela. As you witness this Biden trial, I ask all Americans to remember that this is not just about me. This is about our country, and this is about you.
Today is the first day of jury selection for the Trump trial. This has to do with Stormy Daniels and payments made before the 2016 campaign. That's right. This story is 8 years old, but somehow they've just figured out how to bring the criminal action right in the middle of a presidential election on 2024. I'm sure that's just a coincidence of timing. I'm sure if Trump weren't running for president or if Biden weren't running for re-election and the Democrats actually had something good to run on, I'm sure this would still be happening. Aren't you? Donald Trump's attorneys asked for a change of venue for a different jury pool, not down to Mississippi or Alabama or anything. No, to Staten Island. They just wanted to take the ferry from Manhattan to Staten Island to maybe have a little bit better of a jury pool amongst the New Yorkers, but even that was denied. No, it's a Manhattan jury pool. The borough, I believe, voted 78% against Donald Trump in the last election. This is totally fair. Fantastic, fantastic situation in New York. Also, as he was arriving at the courthouse, the cable news stations treated it like the O.J. Bronco chase with a helicopter overhead showing the motorcade. What are we doing here? Seriously, is this really news? I guess it is. If they tell us it's news, it's news. Donald Trump arriving at the courtroom earlier today, defiant, as I hope he is.
Walking into the courtroom.
Is that common,
here.
Andy? Yeah.
Huh. Here's President Trump as he walks in. Let's just see if we get a comment.
Mr. Trump, you were by the jail time. Are you going to lose voters if there's conviction?
This is an assault on America. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar said this case is nonsense. It should never have been brought. It doesn't deserve anything like this. There is no case, and they've said it. People that don't necessarily follow or like Donald Trump said this is an outrage that this case was brought. This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America. And that's why I'm very proud to be here. This is an assault on our country. And it's a country that's failing. It's a country that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved in this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. That's all it is. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Great statement from President Trump, and he's right. By the way, that sound you hear, Donald Trump's opinion polls going up another 2 or 3 points, because every time this happens, that's exactly what occurs. Part of the problem here, by the way, is in the chyron there from Fox News. Seriously, Fox News? Et tu, Fox News? Trump speaks outside of hush money trial. You know, they keep calling it a hush money case. They do that on purpose. Who pays hush money? Well, somebody who's guilty pays hush money. Who pays hush money? Mobsters pay hush money. That's a mafia thing, right? Who pays hush money? Criminals pay hush money. There's no hush money here. Donald Trump entered into a non-disclosure agreement with the actress known as Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels claimed that she was going to go to the press and tell a story about Donald Trump. Donald Trump, without admitting that the story was true or not, just said, all right, listen, if I just pay you money, will you go away? It happens a lot. She agreed to the non-disclosure agreement, and then, of course, she violated her non-disclosure agreement. The only reason this has reached to the level of criminality is because the district attorney in Manhattan ran for office saying, elect me and I'll get Donald Trump. And that right there is a little alarming and disconcerting. I understand district attorneys saying, vote for me and I'm going to get tough on violent crime. Vote for me and I'm going to get tough on the mob or the mafia, or vote for me and I'm going to go after panhandlers and homeless, all the problems that New York legitimately actually has that they could use a district attorney for. But when a district attorney runs targeting a single individual who doesn't even live in New York, that sort of seems kind of authoritarian, don't you think? Sort of seems like a banana republic, but that's what happened. But even Alvin Bragg wasn't going to bring this case originally, but then he was convinced to do so, partly by members of the Biden Merrick Garland Justice Department. In fact, one key player, the person who will be trying the case, had worked in the Justice Department. He took a leave of absence so he could go join Alvin Bragg's prosecution team. Did you know that? It's not reported very much, is it? Because, on cable news, they're too busy writing a chyron saying hush money. By the way, guys over at Fox News, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you have some experience with non-disclosure agreements. I'm pretty sure that there are former employees and probably current employees who entered into non-disclosure agreements over there at Fox News. Am I wrong about that? I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. So are you engaging in hush money? So stupid. That said, there's some great stuff that goes on at Fox News, of course, including this guy, the great one, Mark Levin. Today's a really good day to remember what he said 1 year ago when this indictment came down in the first place, because everything Mark Levin said a year ago about this trial rings true today. I mean, that's why he's the great one.
And the Republicans better wake the hell up. We need to circle the wagons. We need to understand what we're up against. This is much more fundamental than some phony rogue case by a phony rogue prosecutor who was installed by George Soros and the Democrats. This is much bigger than that. So to answer your question, I don't give a damn about the processing that goes on in Manhattan and all the rest of it. People quote a lot and they don't know who they're quoting, and that would be Beria. Beria was one of the great genocidal maniacs of all time. He worked for Stalin. In the end, he was executed himself. And it is Leverity of Beria, who is a massive, ruthless killer. And he was the one who said, show me the individual and I will show you the crime. And this man was responsible for horrendous acts. This country has now become a tyranny in many respects. And the American people feel it. The American people know it. They see what's taking place. The American media had become the Pravda media because it's loaded with Democrats in the American media. And look, even Fox, Conservative Talk Radio, OAN, Newsmax, under constant attack, under constant pressure by sleazy lawyers, by sleazy, phony journalists, because they don't like the competition.
Right. And they're losing.
Of ideas,
and they're
period.
losing.
They
And
don't
by
want
the
the
way,
competition from the Republican Party and conservatives. That is what's going on.
Mark, right now, the Fox News poll on Tuesday has Trump up by 30 points on Ron DeSantis, and this will probably only foster it. Let me ask you something. You interviewed the president yesterday, I understand, before the indictment came down. How would you describe his demeanor?
And I went back afterwards because I was invited to dinner. This is a remarkable man. I mean, would you be able to eat after you were charged like this with a phony prosecutor? He was very congenial. He was very strong. He was there with the former First Lady, and his son was there, Don Jr., and they couldn't have been. This is a real family. This is a very close family. If you saw the president and Melania together, they are tight as can be. They are strong as can be. He's a very decent man. He cares so deeply about the country. You walk around Mar-a-Lago or you look outside and you think to yourself, this man doesn't need any of this. All he has to do is say, I'm not running anymore. I give up. He won't give up. He's not going to back down to this stuff. And so his supporters and the rest of the American people need to understand that this is a unique man at a unique time in our history, that this country is in very, very grave danger when the law is being used this way against political opponents, a Republican Party, people who have different views at school board meetings and who are opposed to abortion. And it's even worse than that. The efforts by the Biden administration to censor free speech and the Democrat Party, the disinformation board that they want to create, the commingling of government with the social media platforms. Look, I have been studying totalitarianism and tyranny. I have been studying fascism and communism. This is it, guys. This is it. I know people think it can't be. It's the United States of America. What makes us different is our Constitution. What makes us different are the first 10 amendments, is the Bill of Rights within the Constitution. What makes us different is our customs and our traditions and our systems. And when you have one party that has given up all of that, that violates all the boundaries, that is in power for a temporary period of time and wants to make its power permanent, and they've done this in places like California and New York and Illinois and New Jersey, and they take those models and they try and superimpose it on the entire United States.
But they all fail.
People are fleeing these blue states.
Right,
That's
they
why
all fail.
Florida's population and Tennessee's population.
He's 100% right there. This is exactly what does happen in authoritarian regimes. We've seen it for the last 130 years, really, since the Bolsheviks. And by the way, Mao did them one better. They did the same thing. When Mao rolled in, he seized the courts, he seized the military, he seized the media, he seized everything. Total communist, authoritarian, totalitarian regime where no one has rights anymore. And then during the Cultural Revolution in the early 60s, he turned children on their own parents to call them out. That's literally what we're seeing the left do right now in our public schools, turning children against their own parents based on their political ideas. If your parents support Trump, they're actually racist. You should challenge them on their racism. This is right out of their rule book. And good for Mark Levin to point it out. Again, I want to point out that was a year ago. And he saw exactly where we were. And I just want to say what he mentioned about Donald Trump having, I do like the little bit of a flex there that he had dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, because he's Mark freaking Levin. You bet your ass he did. Mark Levin points out that Trump doesn't need this. He doesn't. He's got it honestly, if you were Donald Trump and you were married to Melania and you were living at Mar-a-Lago and you were already serving a term and you're just done. What would compel you to jump into this even further? But obviously, he believes in this country. He believes that he is the last man standing right now between the next step of totalitarianism. He believes that. And I know a lot of people don't like Trump. And there's a lot of people out there who have said in polls, and this is why this is happening, by the way, that they support Trump, they like Trump, right up until the point if he gets convicted of a felony. Then, I don't know. Let me tell you something. First of all, I don't believe those polls because it's hypothetical. Whenever you ask somebody, how will you vote or will you support this person if A or B happens, it's just complete and total BS, all right? Don't poll on an hypothetical. But the left is counting on that. Democrats are counting on that. They can't count on the economy. They can't count on unemployment. They can't count on national security. They can't count on peace in the world. They can't count on border security. They can't count on peaceful, crime-free streets in our major American cities. They can't count on your kids having a great education. They can't count on great goods and services being provided by our private sector or our public sector. They can't count on any of that. The only thing they can count on is fear-mongering and intimidating people away from voting for the other guy. This is going to be the first re-election campaign you've ever seen where it's not going to be a referendum on the current president. Joe Biden's not going to say, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Because he can't. He knows the answer. He's going to say, I promise you, you're better off than you were 8 years ago or something. And so what they're trying to do is slime Trump in any way possible. They want to make you feel ashamed that you're supporting a man who has been convicted of a felony. Well, when is a felony conviction not a felony conviction? When it's complete and total horseshit. That's when. and everybody sees it, and everybody knows it. So it's not going to work. It's not going to work, but that's all they have. And yet the charade will continue, the theater will continue, and we'll all sit and we'll watch the courtroom drama play out on our cable news because none of us have the energy to go outside and run a few miles instead. And at the end of the day, we'll be right back where we were at the beginning of this trial, except Donald Trump will be even more of a martyr and more of a demonstration of what will happen to us if we get in the way of the machine that is the American deep state and the cultural, political, Marxist left. And for people out there who may be an individual say, I support Trump and I know we can't keep going with Biden, but if he gets convicted of a felony, I don't know, that might be it for me. Guys, as our great columnist at Town Hall, my friend Kurt Schlichter, wrote in a great column on Friday, I think it was, you're not voting for your best friend. You're not voting for your favorite human being on the planet. You're not voting for somebody to babysit your children. That ship has sailed. I would love to vote for the reincarnation of George Washington and Ronald Reagan melded into one. That ain't happening right now. Live in the real world. You're voting to end the disaster that's in the White House right now, and you're voting to bring back the man who actually had this country moving in the right direction for the first time in many, many years.